On March 7, 1965, a single tanker of bright green liquid rolled off a military convoy in the jungles of South Vietnam, marking the first day that Agent Orange would be sprayed over an entire generation of forests, villages, and battlefields. What began as a desperate tactical maneuver to defoliate enemy cover would become one of the most infamous chemical weapons in modern history, leaving a legacy of disease, legal battles, and unanswered questions that echo through the lives of veterans and civilians to this day. The story of Agent Orange starts in the early 1960s, when the United States, locked in a guerrilla war against the Viet Cong, sought a way to strip the dense canopy that shielded insurgents. Researchers at the U.S. Army's Edgewood Arsenal combined two herbicides, 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T, into a potent mixture that also contained a highly toxic dioxin contaminant, 2,3,7,8-tetrachlorodibenzo-P-dioxin, TCDD. The resulting formulation, code-named Agent Orange, was classified as a defoliant, but its purpose was equally to destroy crops, disrupt food supplies, and force the rural population into government-controlled areas. From 1962 to 1971, the U.S. military sprayed an estimated 19 million gallons of Agent Orange across more than 10 million acres of Vietnamese terrain. Airplanes, helicopters, and ground vehicles released the chemical in massive swaths, creating a ghostly orange haze that settled into soil, water, and the very fabric of everyday life. The immediate tactical effect was undeniable. Dense foliage vanished, exposing enemy positions. Yet the short-term military gain came at a staggering human cost. Scientists soon discovered that TCDD, the dioxin in Agent Orange, is one of the most persistent and biologically active environmental pollutants known. Even at concentrations measured in parts per trillion, dioxin can disrupt endocrine function, damage DNA, and trigger a cascade of chronic illnesses. Veterans who handled the herbicide without protective gear, pilots who flew over sprayed zones, and Vietnamese civilians who tended contaminated fields all inhaled or absorbed the toxin. Within a few years, a pattern of unexplained illnesses emerged: rare cancers, severe liver disease, diabetes, and a bewildering range of birth defects in children born to exposed parents. The first public outcry came in the early 1970s, when Vietnam veterans returning to the United States began reporting a cluster of unusual health problems. In 1975, the Department of Veterans Affairs, VA, commissioned a study that linked Agent Orange exposure to a heightened risk of several cancers, including non-Hodgkin lymphoma and soft tissue sarcoma. The study also highlighted neurological disorders and peripheral neuropathy, conditions that were previously thought to be unrelated to chemical exposure. This prompted the first congressional hearings, where veterans testified about night sweats, unexplained weight loss, and the loss of loved ones to birth defects they could not explain. Legal battles intensified in the 1980s as class action lawsuits were filed against the chemical manufacturers, most notably the Monsanto and Dow companies, accusing them of knowingly producing a toxic product. In 1984, a landmark case, United States v. Dow Chemical Co., resulted in a settlement that awarded millions to veterans, but it also set a precedent that the government could be held accountable for the health consequences of its own wartime policies. The litigation forced the industry to disclose previously secret research indicating that dioxin was a potent carcinogen, a revelation that shocked both the public and the scientific community. Parallel to the courtroom drama, the medical community began performing autopsies on soldiers whose deaths were shrouded in mystery. One of the most poignant investigations took place at the National Institutes of Health, where a series of post-mortem examinations revealed microscopic lesions in the liver and lungs consistent with long-term dioxin exposure. Pathologists noted an alarming frequency of chromosomal aberrations in bone marrow cells, providing a direct biological link between Agent Orange and the cancers that had plagued veterans for decades. These findings were later compiled into the seminal report, The Agent Orange Dilemma, published in 1990, which argued that the chemical's impact extended far beyond the battlefield, persisting in the bodies of those who survived its immediate effects. The aftermath of Agent Orange is still being written in the lives of those who bear its legacy. In Vietnam, a generation of children known locally as the Orange Children have been born with severe physical malformations, missing limbs, cleft palates, and neurological deficits. International NGOs have documented over 200,000 cases of such birth defects, a figure that many experts believe is only the tip of the iceberg. Meanwhile, U.S. veterans continue to battle for full recognition of their service-connected disabilities. In 2012, the VA expanded its list of presumptive conditions, adding Parkinson's disease and ischemic heart disease, but countless sufferers still struggle to obtain benefits. Environmental remediation efforts have also been slow and contentious. The U.S. Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, ATSTR, has classified dioxin as a known human carcinogen, yet cleanup operations in Vietnam have been hampered by political resistance, logistical challenges, and the sheer scale of contamination. In 2021, a joint U.S.-Vietnam agreement pledged $45 million toward decontamination of heavily polluted sites, but many activists argue that the funds are insufficient to address the breadth of the problem. Through it all, the narrative of Agent Orange serves as a stark reminder of how a single chemical decision can ripple across decades, altering the health of soldiers, civilians, and ecosystems alike. The scientific lessons have reshaped international policy, leading to the 1993 Chemical Weapons Convention, which bans the use of herbicides as weapons and mandates stringent controls on toxic substances. Subscribe to the Autopsy Files for more stories like this.